here with more. It's tonight's party panel. Independent Women's Forum senior policy analyst and contributor to The Federalist, it's Inez Stepman. Criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor David Bruno. And Reason Magazine editor-at-large and co-host of the Fifth Column podcast, Matt Welsh. Hey, guys.
Hiya.
Happy holidays. Thanks for coming in. It's sometimes not the easiest day for guest booking, but we have an all-star lineup here. So really appreciate it. Inez, let's start with you. It kind of seems to me like the Democrats are playing this game right now where they're pretending like they woke up last week and realized, oh, my God, we don't control the Senate. And now what are we going to do about these rules that are so unfair? If they were concerned about that, perhaps they could have mentioned it before they had already passed the articles of impeachment. It looks like a stunt.
Yeah, well, this whole thing seems more and more nakedly partisan, right? And I think Molly is right to say that doesn't garner additional, support from folks who are maybe in the middle, who maybe think that this call was not perfect, as the president would call it, but who are skeptical about using this extreme remedy of impeachment. Like, look, let's be honest. This is the most extreme remedy our Constitution offers, and that is to overturn the results of a duly held election where the American people voted on a president.
And Nancy Pelosi herself said it would not really be legitimate or fair if it were partisan, right? She said there would have to be bipartisanship, and she's abandoned that.
There wasn't, and this is especially with the flip of the complaints on the process.
Yeah.
It just seems so nakedly partisan. That's why I think a lot of Americans are turning against this impeachment, because they were open to hearing that President Trump had done wrong on this call. But now you just see the hardening of the partisan lines, and I think it's just becoming more and more clear.
A lot of hacktastic stuff happening. David, this to me kind of looks and feels like a Christmas gift to cocaine Mitch McConnell, because, right, he was not terribly excited about this trial. Some of his members aren't excited about the trial, who are up for tough re-elections. And I think this is sort of an opportunity for the Republicans to argue with merit that this is, in fact, unserious and petty and partisan, more so than if they had just done what the Republicans did in 98, and instantly passed on the documents to the Senate. That hasn't happened here.
No, I agree with you, Guy. And what it also does, it allows the Republicans to highlight how the process was unfair in the House. Because Resolution 660 was written by House Democrats, and it didn't allow the Republicans to really get their witnesses in front of the House. That's what the Republicans have been claiming. They've been saying, why can't we call Hunter Biden? Why can't we call the whistleblower? And that gets to the process of Resolution 660. So now the House loses control and it goes to the Senate. And Mitch McConnell and the Republicans and the majority, they set the rules in the Senate. So there's no leverage, to answer your question on the last. They have no leverage whatsoever.
They keep using that word. They're like, we're going to apply pressure. I'm like, McConnell feels no pressure on this at all. And Matt, let me bring you in. The argument is garbled, right? Because they made this point, we have to rush through. I talked to Molly about this. We have to rush through because our elections at stake in 2020.
He could kill again.
Right, he could kill again, precisely. And then we have this move, and she's sort of saying it's indefinite. I mean, how fast will she cave? She has to know this is bad politics.
I guess what she's thinking is that maybe it's some kind of Chinese water torture. I don't know if we could still say that with Donald Trump. Like
very problematic.
He'll sit there and kind of like slowly go crazy with this hanging over his head. I guess. I don't think that he will, but I'm saying from her point of view, I just think is the fatal mistake. And I say this as someone, I think, kind of like you. This was a problematic thing. I think there's a good case that he abused power. Mm-hmm. They didn't necessarily make that good case. In order to make that case, you have to get witnesses and you have to subpoena documents. They tried a little bit, and then they said, okay, well, it's going to take too long to have the court sort it through. No. This is a moment when the legislative branch should be restoring its seriousness, which it has frittered away voluntarily for a long time. And the way that you do this is that you show a bit of sobriety. Go through the process, go to the courts, challenge the president, see if we can get some of that. And when you do, you're going to get John Bolton in the House, not necessarily in the Senate.
Which they didn't. They didn't even subpoena him. And meanwhile, over in the Senate, I think Molly's exactly right. Mitch McConnell's like, we'll just keep confirming judges. They did 13 the other day. 1 out of every 4 circuit court judges in this country now a Trump appointee, which is really extraordinary. In the meantime, just in time for Christmas, American Christians are at odds over impeachment. You might remember the magazine Christianity Today published an op-ed last week calling for Trump's removal from office. The editor who wrote that piece, Mark Galley, told MSNBC the reaction has been mixed and somewhat unholy. Watch.
Well, on the plus side, although we've lost a number of, hundreds of subscribers, let's be frank about it, we've gained 3 times as many subscribers. So I think overall, at least the world we live in, it's been affirmative. But yeah, there has been the angry emails, there's been the defensive emails, there's been the outrage.
Now, in response, nearly 200 evangelical leaders pushing back with a letter that they've written to the president of Christianity Today, Dr. Timothy Dalrymple. The letter whose signatories include Mike Huckabee, Jerry Falwell Jr., and others, says, quote, "Your editorial offensively questioned the spiritual integrity and the Christian witness of tens of millions of believers who take seriously their civic and moral obligations. It not only targeted our president, it also targeted those of us who have supported him and have supported you." Of course, the president had to weigh in, tweeting, "I guess the magazine Christianity Today is looking for Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, or those type of socialist, communist bent folks." I sort of butchered that. "To guard their religion. How about Sleepy Joe? The fact is, no president has ever done what I have for evangelicals or religion itself!" Exclamation point. So is this op-ed a sign Trump's evangelical base is eroding, or is the backlash a sign that they're supporting him now more than ever? Inez, it should be, in my view, okay for people of faith to disagree in good faith on sort of a proprietary question like this, right?
Yeah, but that's what we're seeing today, is that politics is now playing for all the marbles because of where the left is on religious liberty and some other issues that are really important to not just the evangelical community, but all people of faith. And as myself, I'm an agnostic Jew. I still I find these issues, these are serious issues about fundamental rights that are threatened by the left. People feel pushed to the wall, and that's why they're willing to say something like, maybe 20 years ago, a man of Donald Trump's personal character would have not been able to garner the kind of support among evangelicals that he is today. But it speaks to our moment in politics where we are now playing for such serious rights, such serious incursions into people's ability to worship freely that, they feel pushed up against the wall, and they feel like, we have to vote for this guy. We have to support him because he's the only thing holding back really serious incursions into our fundamental rights.
That's the strongest argument in the opposite direction from evangelicals' perspective, right? They're saying religious liberty and the courts. Right? These are hugely important to our entire policy project and our constitutional understanding. And if there's an imperfect vessel who's advancing that, then so be it. But there is, David, maybe some hypocrisy here, because a lot of these same people were deeply and gravely concerned about the personal conduct of Bill Clinton, right? And said that affected his ability to do the job. And they've totally reversed themselves when it comes to Trump for those reasons.
Yeah, I think there is a priority list, and they're probably not putting Ukraine at the top. It's abortion rights, it's religious freedoms and things like that. But this is a parting shot for the editor because he is retiring January 3rd. And also this is a preview, I think, from the left, because they know they have to chip away at that evangelical vote.
Is that going to work, Matt?
I could see it happening moving forward.
I think it's less of an action on the left. It's more of just there is some anxiety, and there should be, if you're tethering your mass to a person who's kind of indecent, he's vulgar, he's a boor, you are going to be seen as the strongest bloc that backed this person who offends a lot of people's values, including a lot of Mormons, including a lot of other people who foreground senses of decency about comportment. There should be some anxiety associated with that.
All right, guys, stand by.